I'm like, this is really good. It was right around the time Benji swooped in. I got involved and signed him. The other side of that too was I was really busy with Wiz. That all culminated in the knock knock session. Then we knocked that song out, and it was fucking awesome, and we loved it. I was like, this kid is so much fun to work with. Immediately, I was into it from that moment on. Quentin got, whenever Max signed with Rostrum, he got an unlimited budget to work at K.I.D.S. E.Dan had already shown him love by recording for pretty much free after Malcolm had went through phases of selling TVs for studio time. Benji came in and was like, I believe in this too. Everyone at ID Lab started to believe in Mac. That's where the turn in K.I.D.S happened, because you have E.Dan going in there and doing the final touches on the album, and they make a song like Knock Knock. I believe Benji found the sample. Once Benji got all in on Mac, he helped her find the songs that had tempo that would go. Benji Greenberg. It was the beginning of K.I.D.S recordings. He sat me down. I'm working on a new tape, and I want to play some of the records for you. When he played them, early versions of some of the records, I was like, whoa, these are way better than what I had heard before. The amount that he had progressed in that little time was impressive, and the music was dope. Fuck. That's what turned the tide for me to say maybe we should be looking at something a little bit deeper. Quentin got. We had this natural relationship with the guys at Rostrum. Benji liked his music and is the reason Wiz did a verse on Cruise Control on Highlight for free. Artie had sent out the songs to get more people listening on all platforms. After that, Benji was like, hey, should I be working with? Everything. There was no plan B for him. This is what he was doing. The humble magic of the music videos. There's no denying 2010 K.I.D.S. Mac Miller's fourth mixtape was his breakout moment. K.I.D.S. stole our hearts with its youthful cadences and fun-loving spirit. Whether we were trap singing about the PJs smoking weed alongside Malcolm, or tuning into the simpler times of our lives while listening to the tape, K.I.D.S. was a special moment in Malcolm's discography. The project was arguably the peak of Mac's first creative renaissance. How he went from his early days of being known as Easy Mac into the fully formed Mac Miller, officially capped off 1 year later by Blue Slide Park. The magic of K.I.D.S, smartly extended beyond its shelf life on wax. Teaming up with Rex Arrow, Mac's dear friend and longtime music director, K.I.D.S was accompanied by a series of videos. Nikes on my feet, la 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 la. Kool-Aid and frozen pizzas, don't mind if I do. Senior skip day and knock knock. Each video expanded our perception of Malcolm as a creative, but more importantly, they made us feel, if only for a moment, that we could be Mac Miller. Scenes of him grocery shopping in PJs, lacing up his sneakers to go ball around town, skipping school to drive around getting high, all added to the reliability factor ingrained in Mac's music to this day. There's a storytelling magic to the K.I.D.S videos. They capture Mac being at the height of his youthful essence. There's an overwhelmingly homegrown spirit to these songs. These are not videos meant to flex on us, but rather videos meant to humanize Mac. Many of the people facial expressions while he's cooling on a boat. We see him break character. His smile peeks through not a minute into the video. Mac's playing around. He's not some materialistic artist doing it all for the money. It's all for the love. Mac is still Mac. Even with the lavish lifestyle he's visually portraying. As the sun sets on the water as we transition into Don't Mind If I Do, and the craziest pool party Mac's ever thrown. This video is meant to illustrate Mac at his most successful and true to his nature. The image of success as all his friends gathered around him. Don't Mind If I Do sustains the spirit of K.I.D.S, the best produced video in the day in the life series. It still has its roots in humility. Mac thinks big, but he thinks for himself. Watching him party and grin, we feel so kindred to Mac. An army of people with their thumbs up. That's Mac's vision of success. Sustained love. That's Mac's vision of success. 2 days after the release of Don't Mind If I Do, K.I.D.S dropped with a great fanfare and acclaim. It went on to become Malcolm's breakout hit and the first project to anchor him to his fans' lives. The videos don't stop. Next, on October 22nd, 2010, we got the iconic video for Senior Skip Day, which was the clear K.I.D.S standout. Senior Skip Day takes the day in the live series and it truncates and packing all 3 K.I.D.S episodes in one video. We get Mac waking up, Mac around town, and more of Mac's visions of success. Lots of women lining up for his attention. There's something peaceful about this track, about watching Mac buy ingredients for breakfast in his pajamas. After the splendor of Don't Mind If I Do, it's nice to see Mac at home just being. Senior Skip Day takes simple concepts to stretch them to their emotive ends. There's nothing to unpack. Everything is on the table for us to pick up and treasure. Yet the video, its own endure because they showcase Mac at his then happiest, just enjoying himself at home with not a care in the world. Watching Mac dance in the grocery store, the ease of it all, fills us with glee. How can we not root for the kid? The story of Senior Skip Day is one of the endearment we had already found ourselves in the video. Leading up to K.I.D.S Senior Skip Day, simply ices the cake. Mac chose Knock Knock as his final K.I.D.S video and his final chance to flex his creative chops with Rex Arrow. Part-time piece, part party. Knock Knock stands on Mac's most creative video to the date of its release on November 22nd, 2010. Mac and Rex play with color, narrative lighting, the works. We get the same setting from the day in the life series, reminding us that Mac wasn't going to switch up no matter how ambitious his visuals had become. We also get Mac hosting a warehouse party. The story is less about success and more about growth. Knock Knock strikes us because Mac goes from being one of the guys to appearing as a full-fledged artist. Delivering fresh scenes and new color schemes, the video acts as a playoff for all the time we spent relating to Mac Miller in previous videos. Though we see less of ourselves in the visuals, we now see Mac Miller gearing up Max earnestly, looking to relate to his fans while simultaneously looking to be himself. Mac makes even the most banal moments seem cool and acceptable. We watch him get out of bed for goodness sake, and we're enamored. The story of K.I.D.S videos is one of the establishment and invitations. That is, establishing there is no line between Mac and his fans. He invites us into his life and vice versa. We leave these videos realizing we're in this together, us and Mac, and we will forever be. At the end of the day, we were just some other effing kids. Excuse me. Quentin Cuff. The video with Ian Rex Arrow made K.I.D.S what K.I.D.S is. Rhapsody, before I even met him, I saw the videos and I just thought he was dope. He came out at a time when, you know, he took hip hop back to the essence and core of what it was for him to break through during that time. I thought it was dope. Like, here's this kid and Kool-Aid and frozen pizza comes on and it's the ode to Lord Finesse and you're like, wow, this is dope. For a kid that young to appreciate it and how to appreciate it, and he could go. He could spit. He had flow. That's what drew me in at first. Like, this was different. He didn't care about what was trending. Then when you get to meet the person, that makes you fall in love with the music even more. It's just a direct reflection. You know, it's not fake. With Mac, it was real. What you saw was what you got. We were drawn to this genuine person that he was. Rex Arrow. When Malcolm first played me Knock Knock, we both kind of jumped to, that would be cool to do something. It would be cool to do something that was kind of a throwback. That sort of slowly evolved, and the idea of mixing black and white and color came in. I had done some dance stuff in college and music theater in high school. I was like, look man, it may sound strange, but I think it would be cool if we kind of did something that felt a little West Side Story. It was a cold day in November. We shot the whole thing in one day, which is crazy to think about now. The moment he wrapped his head around it, he was 100% down. From the black and white stuff to him sort of looking into finding the varsity style jacket he found a week before. It added the perfect element to the video. He was a total champ about doing that stuff. About doing the stuff that was more dancey. When we moved into the studio to do the color stuff, it was amazing to watch him perform. He jumped into that character, and there were 40, 50 people in the room, and he had them all completely charmed that entire time. It was one of those videos where we felt like we took a big step forward, and there were a lot of videos, but that one felt like something special. It resonated with the kids listening to it, and my mom loves that video for what it's worth. Will Kelson. We were just watching his numbers on YouTube go up. We were out there charting new territory for a white Jewish kid from Pittsburgh. I don't know if he knew how big it was gonna be. There was definitely an understanding that things were gonna get big. Naughty Ross Simmons. I love his videos. It's always his homies with him. The one thing that separates Mac Millers from the blog era was that they stuck with their homies. To see a video and to see Trey J and C Germ and all these people that he is so tight with, not only are they on his team, they're making this art together and they're having fun together. It's like, yo, let's all go hang out and just do what we do as the people we are. Benji Grinberg. He had the Live Free video, which was polished and fun. The video had some nice views and helped take things up a little bit when we started releasing songs, and every time we did, it would just get bigger and bigger. such a revolutionary step forward for him and the kids campaign. Everything just started to pick up speed and accelerating, and we couldn't shoot the videos fast enough. It was hard to describe, but we kept beating off the momentum that he was building. We kept shooting video after video and got more ambitious. It was exciting. I would be in New York and then I would come back to Pittsburgh, and every time I reconnected with him, it was clear he was taking steps and bounds forward. Whether it be on the recording or production side, even his vision for how everything was going to come together. It was his idea to weave the video campaign together for kids as a day in the life video series that we built upon. Nike's on my feet. It's kind of a long build-up until you get to the track. And for Malcolm, he kind of wanted to expand into more storytelling. It was kind of infectious between Malcolm and Q, JJ and Benji. There was a momentum to just keep pushing things bigger and bigger. By the time we got to Don't Mind If I Do, we wanted to go bigger than we'd ever gone. Quentin cut. There's this guy that passed away. He's a bigger guy that was in a bunch of videos. He was in the studio whenever Mac was recording the spins. And I'm pretty sure he's the one that said, "Yo, you graduated high school today." And that's why Mac says, "Yo, I just graduated high school." Those candid moments, all these rappers have these cool deliberate ad-libs where Mac had his ha-ha. And that's where the class clown thing came in. That always stuck with me. He had in his head what he wanted to do. I used to listen to K.I.D.S original track sound constantly while we were making K.I.D.S, and that's how we came up with the skits. The last little guitar thing that plugs, that's from the OST. This is like a Pittsburgh K.I.D.S. How Mac is living. He was mature to an extent. He was also the Glass Clown. Glass Clown was also going to be the name of the High Life, and eventually he changed it. There's another lost title. Benji Greenberg. He was a perfectionist to a certain degree. I have on my laptop 8 different kid playlists that were each supposed to be on the final playlist. And I print every single album. Where it's like, I think we're done. And then by the next morning, I'd have a message. I just want to do a couple things. The next thing you know, the track list is different. There are some dope songs that never made any of the tapes because of that process. I recall that part of the process when he's getting towards the end, his reshuffling of the deck to get the project he loved. Will Kelson, before he signed to Rostrum, I did all his online marketing. I would sell his songs. I would this was different, and it connected with a lot of kids. Cody Lee, Mac Miller, Memoir Twitter co-founder. If I can remember correctly, K.I.D.S was downloaded off that Piff, which was where you'd find all the new mixtapes. That brings back so many memories by itself. But I was probably your average 14-year-old browsing the internet on his family computer, trying to load my iPod Nano with songs for the next day. I remember hearing songs like Nike's on My Feet, Good Evening, and Knock Knock, and instantly fell in love with this project. I heard Good Evening play for the first time in years at our tribute event held at Stage AE, and remember getting chills as the vocal chops just brought back 100 memories. I kind of stood there, frozen, thinking about the times I spent listening to that song years ago. That was the magic of K.I.D.S for me. Oh, it's the one. It's the one that turned so many people on it and gave him the fan base. It's all those songs I was anxious for him to leave behind, just some of the innocence and off-the-cuffness of the lyrics. I think that's why people liked it so much. Kids his age and younger. It just felt so carefree. So I think it was important. I don't think he could have started with Macadelic. He had to start with K.I.D.S. Music videos are tricky, and he sort of realized that, at least from a perception standpoint, there might be a little bit of an uphill battle. He's a white Jewish rapper from Pittsburgh. I think the approach was always to take it askew in the center and do things that were slightly irreverent and slightly unconventional. That way, at least he could sort of be in his own lane. Quentin Cup. He threw the rapper persona out the window, and on K.I.D.S he wasn't trying to be this flexy person. There was more violent talks on High Life, while K.I.D.S was straight lifestyle. For K.I.D.S in the summer, not much more can be said. And I'm gonna make it as a rapper. That's another thing he would always say. To hear Max say my name on Get 'Em Up was, he had said my name on a few other songs from Jukebox that meant a lot to me. But him saying that on Get 'Em Up, it just charged me up. This dude believes in me. It's easy for me to believe in him. He's fucking talented. But for him to shout me out, that should charge me up to the 9th degree. It was such a It was such a whirlwind for him. My only other experience in watching someone ascend to any level in the music business was with Wiz. And that was a long process with Mac. It happened so quickly. I realized people were into what he was doing. Then, the more I got to know him, he was just so much fun to be around. So much energy. Especially at the time. The dynamic between us, he had so much respect for me and what I did with my rinky-dinky little studio in Pittsburgh. It turned into this relationship where he was a younger cousin. He had this whole thing with me where I was the OG character to him. We just had a lot of fun creating. It happened pretty quickly. After the first session, it was, okay, I fuck with this kid. And it grew over the years. Benji Grinberg. There wasn't a dark side to him. It was, isn't this great? Thumbs up. That's the whole mentality. That whole mentality ran through the first couple of projects we did together. But the fanfare, we started doing more shows and really enjoying it. It was the pure time of progress, of happiness, everyone grinding together towards a common goal. The music took it to the next level. The visuals played a big role. Mac hit a new level of creativity, and sometimes these was meeting with new artist after new artist that entire week, and one thing that stuck out to me was Mac's music. It's nothing I can put a quantifiable factor on. It was just dope. Will Kelson, it blew us all away. We didn't have the time to dwell on it too much because we were on the road. We first started touring in my '94 Volvo station wagon, my mom's old car, 5 deep. Before K.I.D.S came out, we started doing shows, and we were grinding, and it was so much fun. Those were some of the best memories touring. Those initial tours were so much fun because everything was new. For all of us, it was a special time for sure. The K.I.D.S tour, that tour was so fucking fun. We had the best crew. We were in the Sprinter van. There was no structure really. It was just us to get to the venue on time, to get merch set up, to get ready for the show. There was no one pushing us to do anything. It was a magical time, just being in that van, being in LA for the first time, with Juicy J in the backseat, heading out to a show. Moments like that were crazy to me and crazy to Malcolm too. We were both really big fans of music. Just spending these moments together, those times I'll never forget. I have so many favorite memories with him. It was just a really, really, really great time. Quentin Cup. He appreciates K.I.D.S to this day. He even brought back Knock Knock in his live set. I would go back to that project every year, and a lot of the songs sound fresh. My new favorite is Traffic in the Sky, and I feel like that's aged the best out of any song on there. The song is a classic Poppy, and my second favorite. Poppy is my second favorite. Those aren't even the songs that are platinum. For Mac, it was like, I'm always grateful for the start of it, but he had so much progress to do. Poppy planted roots for Remember. It's 2010 and you're enjoying your first run through of K.I.D.S. You've laced up your Nikes just like Malcolm, and you've watched the clouds flow by while getting high on senior skip day. There's not a care in the world. The world is yours, and then Mac hits you with a swerve. 16 songs in. Malcolm delivers a eulogy to his late grandfather in the form of Poppy. This song is as gloomy as K.I.D.S will allow. We go from the vibrant, voice crack charmed of All I Want Is You, from the bright future of the tape overall to a sparkling and pensive buck-wild beat. Over a beat rock sample, Mac devotes 3 minutes of commemorating his grandfather. He kept his spirit alive. Mac even brings out his broken up singing voice as he yearns for everlasting life. Poppy feels so precious. It's a candid moment for Malcolm, one that caused him to tear up while recording it on the otherwise breeze and stressless mixtape. More importantly, Poppy serves as an incredible precursor to Mac's touching Remember of 2013, watching movies with the sound off. Poppy plants roots for the way in which Mac will go to memorialize a fallen friend, and placing the two songs side by side. It's clear they're operating in the same canon. Mac's eulogies follow simple rules. There must be singing, there must be long verses, there must be a straining against the clock, there must be a normalization of mourning, and there must be a promise of continuation. Both Poppy and Remember check all of these boxes, making them emotionally satisfying beyond measure. The first version of Poppy begins in the same manner as the second verse of Remember. Both opening lines greet death and set a somber scene. Hello, death. It seems that we meet again. You keep taking breath This idea will become the major theme of Remember, from which its title we can gather it's all about the importance of remembrance and legacy. 10 years on, and Poppy is a fundamental Mac Miller eulogy. As we transition into the graver Remember, we can look back on the writing and structure of Poppy. It is a clear guide from Malcolm's eulogy to his friend of 10 years. Unlike Poppy, Remember immediately begins with the future. The songs are ultimately inversions of each other. Their arcs create a perfect circle of eulogizing. I hope you're proud of me, dude. I grew to be. Mac begins by opening with the future. Mac immediately evokes the power of memory as a spellbinding and time-altering construct. Remembering his fallen friend allows Mac to bridge gaps between the past and the future. Listeners passing either through Mac or through Mac's memories. Here Mac sets up his growth to be an extension of his friend's life, as if he were watching over him, just as Mac wishes on Poppy. Soon after we encounter the structure of Poppy, with Mac straining to understand Death's presence in his life. This life moves fast. I never knew that. Between Remember and Poppy, we get the sense all Mac wants is an everlasting life, but he keeps falling short of feeling invincible. As death clouds his circles, much like Mac does on Poppy, he attempts to bend time and fact with Remember, admitting, "You had a girl, I kinda wish you knocked her up so I could meet your son and talk you up." These final lines of the first verse were a mirror of Max hoping Poppy takes care of Nanny. Both work to keep the person alive, to address them as if they were still living. Both moments attack our concept, the permanence and finality. Moreover, on Remember, with the invocation of children, we get the sense that Mac is obsessed with legacies of those he loves. On Poppy, he is Poppy's legacy. But on Remember, Mac realizes his friend's legacy has been threatened. Thus, in naming the songs for his friend's initials, he gives him the legacy of which he was otherwise robbed. Mac's eulogies was not only mourning the deceased, they attempt against all odds to extend their lives. During both Poppy and Remember, Mac normalizes mourning. The mere presence of Poppy on a happy-go-lucky day, like it suggests hurting, is a fact of life to be acknowledged, not denied. Otherwise, as Mac says, Remember, it's cool to cry. Don't ever question your strength. By 2013, we came to expect this guiding light from Malcolm, but in 2010, it was revolutionary. To see him build upon the themes and continue to make it okay to be a young man in touch with his emotions is both rewarding and effective. That is, it brings us closer to Malcolm and fosters that unbreakable connection keeping him alive to this day. Just as Poppy Remembers ends with a snug segment second creative renaissance was no easy feat. Mac not only improved his potential on Poppy, he praised us all for that was to come in terms of his content and emotional availability. We go from being some motherfucking kids to remembering youth, and the entire time Matthew is with us. Now we remember him, and the power of memory does its job to keep Malcolm thriving. Benji Greenberg. It feels like chapter 1, whereas everything that came before it feels like a prelude. K.I.D.S is when it really started. I think musically it was a step above anything he had been doing and what anyone else was doing in terms of combining common themes with great hip-hop beats. This just started or heavily picked up the momentum he created. It would snowball into what things happened after, from Best Day Ever to Blue Slide Park and so forth. This was pushing the turbo button on things. Wiz Khalifa. A lot of people followed the movement, and they understood he was more than a white rapper or whatever. He proved himself to a lot of people, whether it be going to the radio, freestyling, or performing in front of large crowds. People who didn't know his music became diehard fans. He made sure people fucked with his music as opposed to giving them an option to. Naughty Ross Simmons, when he says, "We're just some motherfucking kids," that is my life lesson. Not to be so hard on yourself, especially on life. In the time that we're in now, with society and the pressures around us, we're so hard on ourselves. Granted, I'm 24. I'm not just a motherfucking kid. I'm also human. I'm just a person. It helped me not be so hard on myself when I disappointed myself. You are only a kid. You can make mistakes. I do have the capacity to make mistakes, and I can grow and I can learn. Will Kelson. Good music is timeless. Good projects are timeless, and Malcolm was able to put a lot of good music through his career. Pretty much everything he's dropped is timeless in its own way because he created a theme with each project that you will take back to the moment in time you heard. He was all about nostalgia, even at a young age. He was a senior in high school and he'd be talking about back in the day. I think that kind of carried over sacred. There's something to listening to Mac rap as if he had all the time in the world. When I hear Malcolm rap his breakfast order in senior skip day, I think of hungover Sundays, yearning for a greasy breakfast to bring me back to life. K.I.D crafts itself into life, and I understand it now. Sure, I'm not as pressed about the shoes I'm wearing as on Nikes on my feet, but I'm concerned with the quality of the fuzzy socks I hope to get for the holidays. I don't have time for joy rides through town, but you can catch me jamming out on the drive to the pharmacy. I have random aches and chests. I have random aches and pains interrupting my day. Not smoke breaks or hookups or calls from friends to run amok outside. 10 years removed from the tape, 10 years older, 10 more years plagued by anxiety. I still consider myself a motherfucking kid. I'm a kid in a way. I get giddy about the minute making life worthwhile. I'm a kid because I still wait by the window for the mailman to drop off a package. I'm a kid because a fresh cup of coffee feels like the cause for celebration. I'm a kid because a sunny day still gives me a reason to smile. I'm a kid because I still have it in me to laugh so hard I cry and fall over and roll on the floor and roll into the counter, and I laugh at that too. I'm a kid because I decided as much, because the forward pressing of time can't steal my lust for life. That's Malcolm's lesson on kids. His warning. It's about safeguarding yourself and your childlike energy. It's about throwing up a handful of confetti every time you find a spare moment to yourself. The key to revival is finding something small to love about each day. There's no life without the small things. Youth feels so sweet, in part because the simplest joys are long-lasting. As adults, we have to realize that if we spend our time waiting for the big things to unfold, we'll have wasted all our lives in anticipation and done absolutely zero living. That is why, without realizing it, Malcolm's obsession with the playful, finer things in life made kids a blueprint for staying young. You stay a motherfucking kid by falling back in love with life, even after it's done you dirty, because there's always another treat waiting in the wings. With that, it is a pleasure to go back and hear kids and see the things that enchant a young Mac Miller, sagging his pants, smoking weed with friends, macking on women. We don't look down on Malcolm for his taste in life pleasures. We admire him. How nice it must feel to be